feel like I should have a cup of tea. Maybe a coffee. Right. Oh my gosh. I've gone for a coffee. I feel like I might regret it. And it's probably going to tip me over the edge, but come on. You only win in life by taking risks, and this is my risk for the day. I'd also just like to let you know that I got this chair from downstairs because it makes me feel like a supervillain, and that makes me feel powerful and good. So I'm doing that. I should probably start by welcoming you to the podcast. This is the first one I've done of these ever. So any suggestions that you've got, I'd love to have them down in the comments. I'd love to hear all the things that you would love me to address and want me to talk about. I am going to have a little bit of sort of a direction, I suppose, for these podcasts as they are. So I am aiming them very much at, oh, and I suppose I should reveal the name of the podcast right now, because I did have a little a vote for these on my stories. Build a Poddy was a very close second, because it's great. There's a great pun going on there, but I am going to stick with the majority because it's got a little bit of a message. I want this podcast to be directed at the majority. I think lots of people feel like they struggle with their health and fitness and they're in the minority. That's not true. You're in the majority if you in some way would like to improve your health and fitness. You're in the majority. So I want to make this podcast for the majority. I want to make this for people that, what's the right word here? I'm not looking to hit professional athletes. And you know, if we get any professional athletes on this, getting views from professional athletes for this podcast, then great. But I'm aiming it for those who really want to improve their relationship with their health and fitness. They want to build their confidence. They want to feel better about themselves. They don't want to feel like they're getting towards their 30s and just losing that little bit of sharpness, losing that little bit of confidence. They struggle to take risks anymore. It's these kind of things. That's who I really want to direct it at. So I'll start off by just telling you who I am. So if you don't know already, which I would imagine if you're watching this, you probably do know who I am. But, you know, let's not limit the future here. This could hit 1 million views. Probably not, but oh well. So I am an online fitness coach. I've got lots of clients in lots of different locations around the world that are wicked people. I really enjoy working with them. My job is to help them with their health and fitness goals. I'm often working with beginners, people who really might even be their first time walking in the gym. They really don't feel confident, but they want to be able to lift. They want to be able to lift well. So I will work with them, help them to achieve whatever goal it is they've got. Sometimes their goals will really, really vary. Like I've got some guys who are ultra marathon runners and they want their lifting to support their ultra marathon goals, which is, I mean, in my mind, I know I'm supposed to be like a health and fitness expert, but running an ultra marathon just sounds crazy to me. But then there's some other people that, you know, they really want it to look great and feel confident for their wedding. So they got in touch. I've got other people. I've got 2 clients, one of which has Parkinson's, and all of my programming is to help him with that, to help him increase his dopamine levels, because that's really, really helpful for Parkinson's, and exercise is a great way of doing that. I've got someone who's just recovered from cancer and they're trying to rebuild their life basically, and their physicality is a big part of that. So I'm helping her. There's a whole different bunch of reasons why people get involved, but it's always because they want to benefit their relationship with their health and fitness. I'll start by telling you a little bit about me so that you know who it is that's actually talking to you in this thing. Basically, growing up, I grew up in a family of 4, my mum and dad and my brother. I had an older brother. And as most younger brothers are, I am and was at the time, but I'm definitely still incredibly competitive. Always have been, always wanted to win, always wanted to be the best. But I'm certainly not one of those people that I'm naturally gifted at sport. Just definitely not that way. My dad was a football coach in our sort of kids team growing up. So dad was a football coach, and I was just like, I would go along as a really little kid, but just not that interested in it, to be honest. And I actually remember it being freezing cold and me just being like, nah, I'm not getting out of the car. Had a massive like paddy in the car, and just then dad said to me, look, I'm really sorry, but like, I don't think this is for you. You probably shouldn't come, because it's really difficult for me to coach the team whilst my kid's having a breakdown in the car. So that was it for my footballing prowess in the early years. Not a great start. But what I would say is, after a couple of years doing gymnastics instead, I really enjoyed that. I was good at it. I can still walk on my hands now. That's like a party trick if I ever need one. But you just end up looking like a bit of a knob, to be honest, because you just come down, your face is completely red. And it's like, well, that was cool whilst you were upside down, but now you look like you're crapping your pants. So, yeah, not the best now, but it was cool when I was younger, I think. But yeah, I'm really like, loved gymnastics, was really decent at it, but I would say I wasn't exceptional at anything within it. I was definitely like, I was great at grabbing the low hanging fruit within it. Like, all of my routines were really spot on and neat and tidy and timed well. And I think that's what got me some good results. So I won a gold medal when I was in, I think I would have been in year 6 for my club, and like, you know, in like a local competition. And you know, like I said, I'm not a mad athlete. Like, it's not like I was even competing at a high level, but I remember that meaning loads to me. And it was a really important lesson for me of like, okay, I don't have to be the best at anything, but if I'm really consistent and I really work hard, I can achieve something good. And then I got back into football a little bit more after that, because, like I said, I sort of found my feet a little bit in sport, but not really anything crazy, literally just playing for local teams and stuff like that. But I didn't really play regularly. I played for a bit, I just wasn't really very good, to be honest. I just wasn't great, and sort of fell out of love with it again in secondary school. I found the social element to football in secondary school like unbelievably difficult. So I was just like, I just didn't bother. Then I made friends with my friend Alex, which, shout out to Alex, if you're listening to this now, you will know exactly who you are, because he was obsessed with football, obsessed with Chelsea Football Club, and just wanted to play FIFA all the time. So we became friends, and that was it. Like, I was just gonna play FIFA because that's what he was doing, and I got so into football then. Exactly the same approach of just the low hanging fruit, just trying to do the simple things really well. I'd like to say that I'm the James Milner of my friendship group. Just hardworking, will do the simple things well. But I feel like that does a real disservice to James Milner, who has had a glittering football career in the Premier League. I'm pretty sure as well he won a Champions League with Liverpool, and won the Premier League with Liverpool as well. So I feel like James Milner might feel slightly, it just probably doesn't represent him that well. If he ever sees this, sorry, James, you're better than me at football. I think that much is clear. But yeah, that's definitely, I guess that's kind of become my style across life. Like, I will work really hard for something. I'm not very good immediately at things, but I will outwork you because I'm obsessive and I'm relentless. And I think a lot of that comes down to ADHD, which is, I'm discovering as I'm going through an ADHD diagnosis at the moment, has benefited and cost me lots in life. But I'm going to talk way more about that in another episode. So once once that had sort of been a thing, like I was playing for a local team with my friend Alex, who played for the same team, and I hit about 17 and actually became like, I was doing okay in that team, much better than I ever thought I would. But then I moved to Weston-super-Mare with my girlfriend at the time, but now my wife, Amy. We'd been together we started going out when we were 15, so 3 or 4 years at that point. But yeah, we moved to Weston-super-Mare, and then really, like, I hadn't been involved in weightlifting in any way, shape, or form. But it all started when we moved to Weston-super-Mare to get involved with some youth work that was going on down there that we loved, with some amazing people. And basically, me and Amy got engaged at 19. 19. Who the hell decided that was a good idea? Well, I guess it was me, but like, just when I think about me at 19 now, I just think, wow, I just can't believe we did that. I can't believe our parents approved of that, which they did. And we are still together now, and we are happier than ever. Genuinely, like, I really mean that. We are genuinely happier than ever. But just absolute madness that we did that. But what really like stemmed my desire for getting serious about lifting was, I would tell, at the time I was a sports coach in primary schools, and I would tell the parents of the kids that I would coach that I was getting engaged. They would ask, oh, like, how have you been? What have you been up to? And I'd tell them. And I remember there was a specific mum, and she literally looked me up and down, and she was like, oh no, like, you don't want to do that. Like, that's a terrible idea. And like, just thinking about that now, that is such a crazy thing to say to someone who has just got engaged. Like, as if I'm going to be like, oh, you think so? Oh, all right, I'll call it off. Like, no, of course I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to be massively disheartened and like think, just, yeah, she did not have the place in my life to cast a vote on that kind of thing. So, but I remember feeling about that big, tiny, feeling really embarrassed, I guess. And I just thought to myself, yeah, she thinks I'm about 10 and I'm making a stupid decision. And you know what? She was probably right, to be honest. But regardless, at the time, it really pissed me off. And I thought to myself, I look like a boy, and I'm very much making a man's decision. And I was a boy making a man's decision, that was true, but I didn't like it at the time. So obviously I wanted to look good on the wedding day, and I wanted to be stronger for football. I was playing a lot of football at the time, playing in a really good team that I loved. And it basically just swayed me to like, nah, I want people to take me seriously. Like, I wouldn't have told anyone that. I would have told everyone that I wanted to be fit and strong for football. That's what I would have said. But truthfully, I was really insecure about the decision I was making, and it made me, I wanted to feel more powerful, which I know is really stupid, because ultimately having stronger muscles does not equip you in any way, shape, or form to get married. But I was young, and I was very, very, very insecure, and that felt like the right thing to do. I wanted people to take me seriously. I wanted to be seen as a man, not a boy. So that's why I got into the gym, and I actually started with CrossFit. I loved CrossFit. It was so fun. If you don't know what CrossFit is, it's like a whole mixture of different training modalities pushed into one, right? So you'll do loads of cardio stuff, you'll do loads of gymnastic style stuff, which I was already pretty decent at. You'll do loads of weightlifting stuff, lots of Olympic weightlifting, which was so fun. I loved the Olympic weightlifting. It was so technical. It's absolutely terrifying if you ever have an opportunity to do it. with some good coaching supervision, I would definitely encourage you to do so. It is very technical and difficult, but it is incredibly fun and challenging. But I got into Olympic weightlifting and, all sort of CrossFit style training through just going to that gym. The community was wicked there. I went to a gym called the Ox House in Weston-super-Mare. It was brilliant. Shout out to the Ox House if any of you lot are listening to this. I loved it. And I actually loved it so much that I wanted to qualify as a coach. So I think I did that maybe 2 years into my training, I'm pretty sure. So at this point I was married, and then my bosses, Adam and Paul Maxwell, paid for me to qualify, which is just unbelievably generous. Big shout out to them. And yeah, it was just wicked. Learning how to, I think that's where I really first got the bug for coaching. I've always loved people, always, always, always. My dad my dad and my mum, they're just such people. And I guess they taught me to be fascinated by people. But where I really found that I could show people how to do something and it would like boost their confidence or give them a feeling of satisfaction was through coaching at the Ox House. It was wicked. I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with it completely. I did that for many years, probably, I want to say 6 or 7 years, maybe slightly less, maybe more like 5, but I can't remember properly. But then started eventually, after doing that for, like I say, probably around 5 or 6 years, started my own gym with my friend Josh, who we had the best time doing that. And it was attached to a church. The gym building was attached to a church. Again, Paul and Ad, particularly Paul with the gym, were a massive part of making that happen, and it was wicked. It was all about mental health and how your mental health and your physical health are linked in just such a powerful way. And it was a really cool community. All the things that I sort of learned about community through the Ox House, we brought into that gym, and it was a tiny, tiny little like studio, but it was wicked, and we loved it, and we built a really cool community out of it. And then unfortunately, COVID happened, and it just completely shifted. I don't even know where to start with this. It just shifted what me and Amy had planned for our lives in Weston. We started thinking about children and wanting to be closer to home. There were so many different things, decision-making factors. But after 9 years in Weston-super-Mare, we decided to come home. And that changed everything, because at the time it was my first, I sort of dipped my toe into online coaching in COVID. I was working with Casey, who I'm still working with now. That's been many, many years, and she just got married, so that was really cool, prepping her for her wedding and stuff like that. But yeah, she was my first online client, Casey. So yeah, I guess that was where I first was doing some online coaching, but I didn't imagine I'd bring it home, to be honest. We just we moved back to Hemel Hempstead, me and Amy, which is where I'm from, Hemel Hempstead, to be back closer to family and, stop doing the gym. And I got a job in the mental health field, which was incredible. I loved it. I worked with a charity called HYH. HYH is it stands for Hearts Young Homeless, Hertfordshire's Young Homeless, and in that job I worked with young people who were at risk of homelessness because their mental health or their parents' mental health was really, really struggling, and it was looking like they were going to have to move out of the family home. So it was my job to come in and not mediate, but it was my job to either support the person who was struggling or the person, who was living with someone who was really struggling, and help that person. Or, like I said, work with the person who's really struggling and sort of boost their mental health and maybe help them interact with those who they were living with. And that taught me I mean, taught me lessons that I'm still using today with clients now. Taught me how to take coaching to a far, far deeper level and address problems that are way more important than just, having a six pack for the beach. Not that there's anything wrong with that at all, but I guess now it affects my coaching in such a massive way, to be able to dig deeper into issues and get to the root of things. Like, the reason why I think the builder body clients get such a good result is because we really dig deep, and people's why becomes so significant when they dig down properly and realize what actually matters. So yeah, working with young people in that field was the best. It was the best. I would still love to be doing that job, genuinely. I loved it. But unfortunately, it doesn't, the sector just doesn't pay very well. So I was doing online coaching on the side to sort of like boost that. Picked up a few clients here and there, and then it sort of really started growing. I started the Instagram page to sort of advertise it, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I got more and more inquiries, and I got busier, and it was really hard to balance the coaching side of things and then my job at the same time. And eventually it just became like, I'm gonna have to give it up and go full-time coaching. And I thought to myself, I don't want to do this coaching and move away from what I love unless I can marry what I love about working with people who are struggling with their mental health and marry that to this coaching. So I took this really different approach, and oh my days, everything that I loved about HYH, I've been able to take into build a body, and it has been wicked. I've been doing it just over 2 years now, and it's become my passion. I love it. I love the people I work with. I love building the Instagram page and finding useful ways of coaching people and helping them with things. I love being involved in people's stories and seeing what they can achieve over the span that we work together. It's quality. So I've really, really, really enjoyed that so far. But yeah, I think my clients and the stories that we post reflect that. They buy in fully to that. And I think, I don't know, we've just been through a mad pandemic, but what I see from people that I speak with every day, whether it's current clients or people that I talk to who are inquiring, or just, people that I've built relationships with online, there is a pandemic. Like, if we see a pandemic as like a widespread thing, there is a pandemic of low self-care. 100%. 100%. I see it in the way people treat themselves, the way they treat their bodies, the I guess the lack of risks that they're willing to take for their job, for their career. Like, you can see people who are miserable in their jobs, and they could take a risk and step out of it, but they don't. They stay in it because they don't value themselves enough. The biggest place I'll see it, though, is in relationships. People stay in horrendous relationships. Everyone knows someone who's in a relationship that they shouldn't be in. I bet you can think of them right now. It's mad, and I think that people don't value themselves enough, and that's why they'll put up with the rubbish that they put up with, whether it be through how they treat themselves, like I said, whether it be through career or relationships, or anything, how they'll let their family members treat them. Whatever it is, it all comes down to they don't value themselves enough. Like, if that was your child and you could see it happening to your child, there's no way you'd let that happen. Yet when it's you, you're more than happy to let that happen. And it's crazy. So that's what this whole build a body thing is all about. It's all about getting people to treat themselves as if they are the most important thing in their life. And that's not that they become selfish. Like, the whole point of treating yourself really well is that if you increase the value of yourself, you are able to meet the needs of others a million times better. I'm a firm believer in that. That's definitely what, you know, this business is based off. It bothers me. It really bothers me, and I'm going to make it my business, literally, to change that, I think. Anyway, preach over. I don't really have any segments for this yet. I'm working on that. I'm well up for suggestions on that. Right now, I just thought I would talk about a little weekly takeaway. Hopefully I'll be able to put a little picture up here. But something that has sort of burnt a hole in my head this week is I was talking to my lovely client, who I won't name for obvious reasons when I tell the story, but I was talking to my lovely client, and she has very recently lost her dad. And it's really, really sad. And in our weekly check-in, she was talking to me about the funeral. And funerals are very strange. I've been to a family member's funeral recently, and sometimes when the circumstances around the person passing away are really tragic, like funerals can be awful, they can be the worst, but other times they can feel like I don't even know what's the right word to use here, they're like victorious. I don't know, it's like a celebration of someone's life in such a powerful way. She was saying that as they were, in the tradition, she's from an Asian culture, she's from Malaysia, and their tradition is that they walk the hearse down the road as the funeral comes to an end, and the family had their hands on the car to sort of like escort their dad down the road. And I just, at the time, like, listening to her speak, it was obviously a really powerful moment for her, and it stuck with me all week. Like, I just have not been able to stop thinking about how amazing that moment was for them. And I think the whole process for her was incredibly moving and difficult, but also really healing and powerful. And it just made me think, like, why was that event so powerful? Like, what was it about physically putting her hand on the car and the family doing it together as a community? Like, what made that so powerful? And I do think there is something incredible, and this is what I'm trying to teach people through this business, is that doing something physically to affirm what is going on within you on an emotional level is so powerful and important. It's so powerful. And it's not just that it goes from within you to out into a physical place. It's what you do physically comes in and feeds you internally, whether that be on an emotional level or a psychological level. I guess those two things are really linked anyway. But imagine they just watched their dad go. Like, nothing really, if we just took it on a surface level, nothing is that different. But putting their hand on the car and walking alongside the coffin suddenly makes that a million times more powerful and a million times more valuable and way more healing than it would have been had they just watched him go. I guess having that understanding, if you go away from this podcast with one thing, I so hope it's that you come away with a sense of, wow, what I do physically matters. It matters. It sends me all sorts of messages, and they're important and they're long lasting. I really want people to understand that. Think about even in like the tiny things, right? If you're happy about something, you don't sit there like this, do you? You don't sit here with a blank face. You smile. You smile. It resonates. What's going on within you comes out physically. When you're sad, we cry. What a weird thing. Water. comes comes out of my eyes to show that I'm sad, for me to communicate that I'm sad, whether that even be communicating to myself. You know, sometimes you're sat there and you just start, you know, you're watching a movie or whatever and you just start crying. You're like, oh, this is hitting me, right? You almost surprise yourself with what's happening physically. That is exactly the same in your relationship with your health and your fitness. Every time I step in the gym, whether I want to be in there or whether I don't, which most often I don't, which I know might sound strange considering this is my job, but most of the time, I'll be honest, I just can't be asked. But every time I walk through those doors, I send a message to myself that I matter, that I'm important, that I'm valued. I value myself because I'm willing to do the hard work to invest in something that I know will benefit me long term. That's the message I send to myself. And it's important that we build up this sort of, I guess, I like to see it as like an investment bank, right? Every time you do something physically that benefits you, whether it be picking a meal that you know is going to be more nutritionally beneficial for you, whether it be going out on that walk that, to be honest, you really can't be asked to do, whether it be stepping into the gym or, you know, starting a sport that you're nervous to start, whatever it is, let's take it away from health and fitness. Let's take it into your job or your relationship. You know, you're going to have a difficult conversation with someone that you really don't want to have a difficult conversation with, but you're willing to do it because you're sending a message to yourself that you're important enough to make the hard decision. Sometimes it might be to do with your health and fitness, but it might be the opposite way around. Maybe you need to not do that thing. You know, you've been punishing yourself with a pursuit for health and fitness. I know a lot of people like that. I know a lot of coaches like that, that literally hold themselves to the most ridiculous standard and they will not let it go. But really that's moved into a place that's unhealthy and they're actually like, you know, they're hurting themselves by not just taking a little rest and a little break. These kind of things, they're important. And that's my weekly takeaway for this. And I hope that, you know, marrying up what you do physically with how you feel emotionally can be powerful for you this week. I hope this podcast has been helpful. I've got no idea even how long that was. Maybe I should probably find that out. I'm definitely a rookie here. So yeah, if you did find this podcast helpful, please like and subscribe on Spotify. Wow, I've never done that before. This is going to be fun. Or on YouTube if you're watching as well. I'd love to make this a regular thing. Obviously, we need some... This goes to show just how inexperienced I am. Segments? Do we call them segments? We need some of those, whatever they are. So suggestions would be very welcome. That was just a little bit about my story. I hope that was useful and entertaining, and hearing a little bit about what I do and why I do it was helpful. And yeah, if you resonated with anything, please comment below or message directly. I'd love to chat with you about it. But yeah, see you in the next. Thanks for coming.